We are coming to you live from $1 Million Studios. Your boys, Chris Speez,
a.k.a. White Goodman.
And the benchmark of professional wrestling, Mr. Silky Beans.
That would make me the Black Pete LaFleur. Dodgeball, bitches.
Dodgeball references. Speez and the Benchmark Show on a Thursday night, January the 10th, 2019. We thank you so much for being with us. Everybody here on Periscope and over on the YouTubes. And a special hello to all of you listening to us on the podcast after the fact. iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify. Anywhere you hear your favorite podcast, you can catch the Speez and the Benchmark Show. Favor to ask all of you good folks out there. We're trying to get this audience to grow. And I was thinking about this earlier, Silky. You know, our show is kind of the hidden gem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the people who know about our show, you know, it's like when you have that cool thing that you know about, nobody else knows about it. So it's like you want to keep it all to yourself. You don't want to tell anybody else about it because then all of a sudden it becomes a big thing and then you're no longer as big a deal because you're not the one that knows about it. Now everybody knows about it. It's not as cool. But look, we are nothing if not loyal. Is that correct, Silky?
That is correct.
So all of you good people, like Get the Tables, already dropping super hearts on us over here on Periscope. Jody Mania, who's there. You know, all you guys that are with us all the time. Juanito, Jeffrey Cross, Bob Aruski, you know, across the pond.
Young Reezy.
Darren, Dr. Huge, all you guys. You know, we're still loyal to you guys, but do us a solid. And if you would, share as much information as you can about the program to all of your followers and people. Start telling them about the show. See if we can get some more folks in here. So if you would do that for us, we would be very grateful. And also, if you want to pitch into the cause, you can do so by dropping those super hearts over on Periscope. Or, as Silky is pointing out, you can hit us up with the tip jar. tinyurl.com/SB tip jar if you want to just do a one-time donation thing because
these bills need to get paid.
Indeed they do. So we will be joined here shortly by indie wrestler Brysin Scott. Very much looking forward to our chat with him. And if you want to get in on the phone lines to talk to Brysin or talk about whatever it is you want to talk about, you can hit us up on the phones at 832-937-4559.
That's 832-93-SILKY.
832-93-SILKY is the phone number to get in. Before we bring Brysin in today, Silky, the news that everybody is talking about. Everybody is talking All Elite Wrestling. We had the little pep rally earlier this week where Cody and the Bucks came out and basically said, yeah, we're doing this thing. It's going to happen. Cheerleaders, Pyro. It was nice to see Pyro again.
Yeah.
I'll definitely give him that. That was very cool. And of course, a lot of familiar faces that we knew we were going to see, along with a couple of surprises. Most notably, a guy that I'm a big mark for, formerly known as Neville, but Pac, the bastard Pac, as he's known on Twitter now, will be with All Elite Wrestling. And last but not least, Chris Jericho showed up on the at the big event there earlier this week. What was your takeaway from the All Elite pep rally there?
I mean, it did solidify a lot of stuff, but I mean, it's also stuff that we already knew. I mean, hell, when the rumors came out about All Elite, one of the things was Jericho was going to be one of the owners. We reported on that, and so it's not a surprise that Jericho's going to have something to do with it. Other than that, I mean, the biggest thing that come from that is that we got a date for Double or Nothing in May.
In Las Vegas.
Yeah, in Las Vegas. So they're stepping it up from a 10,000-seater to probably about a 15 they could probably get in there. So other than that, I mean, there's still not much known. We don't know we don't know about the TV deal. Yeah, TV deal. If they get a TV deal, where's it going to be? Things like that, which are very important to, I think, because of who's running it, everybody is quick to make all these assumptions like they're going to be rivals to WWE, but without knowing any of this vital information, I mean, there's nothing to say that this is no more than any other indie fed, like an Impact or...
It seems like it didn't do much to change your opinion. If you were a fan of those guys before, you're probably very excited. If you didn't like them before, you probably went, oh, it looks like a bunch of bullshit. You know, Texas Legends there says it was an all snoozer. You know, it was just... It did what it was supposed to do in that, you know, they told us a little bit more. They gave us some big names that are going to be involved with it in terms of, you know, as far as wrestling fans are concerned. So we'll see. It's still a very much wait and see attitude on my end, at least. But we'll see what happens going forward. We got a phone caller already coming in here. Somebody saying Facebook hello. So we'll see who the Facebook hello is here. And welcome our caller. What's going on, caller? You're on with Speez and the Benchmark.
It's Sasha Reigns.
Of course, it's Sasha Reigns. How are you?
I'm good.
So what's the word? What Now, Sasha Reigns sent me a message earlier this week wanting to know if okay, for those of you joining us who may not have been here before, Sasha Reigns calls in the program quite often, was our Roman Reigns correspondent.
Yes.
Roman Reigns, of course, now injured, so she became our Seth Rollins correspondent.
Yes.
And now, who is it that you're wanting to be a correspondent for, Sasha?
That's Ann Ronda.
Oh, now she wants to be Ronda Rousey correspondent, Sasha Reigns. So I'm assuming you're calling in because you have some manner of Ronda Rousey news.
Yes, I think that she's going to win against Sasha. Of course.
You think she's going to win against Sasha? All right.
I mean, it's a no-brainer on that one.
You think it's a no-brainer?
Yeah. If she even gets close to a loss, she's not going to lose until either at Mania or after Mania. They're going to at least give her that.
You would hope so anyway.
Yeah.
You would hope so. What about Seth Rollins? What are you hearing about Seth Rollins, Sasha? Now, as our correspondent, you got to give us some breaking news here other than I think she's going to win.
Yeah.
We're giving you this valuable time on the program for you to provide us with some insider knowledge on what's going on with Seth Rollins.
I'm about to do research on him.
Okay, you got to take your phone off speakerphone because I'm having trouble understanding you.
I forgot to do research on him.
She's about to do some research.
Okay, then. Well, we will anxiously await your Seth Rollins update, and keep in mind that, she thinks Ronda Rousey's going to win.
All right.
How's all else, Sasha? Everything?
And I feel like she's going to win for Roman Reigns at the Rumble.
Well, we shall see. It's still a ways to go before the Rumble. Lots to happen, so we will see what happens. So thank you, Sasha Reigns, for the phone call. As always, we appreciate you chiming in. And, we'll see what she comes up with as she digs on Seth Rollins.
There you go.
Because that's what she
I guess that's what she does. Okay.
So we appreciate the phone call. And for the rest of you, if you want to get in, of course, 832-937-4559.
That's 832-93-SILKY.
832-93-SILKY. Now, what do you say, Silky? We go ahead and bring on our special guest here, shall we?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. You can catch this gentleman. You might have seen him on 205 Live, where he took on both TJ Perkins and Rich Swann on the same night. And he is also a regular in Texas indie wrestling down here in this part of the country. And not just Texas, but all around the area. We enjoy his work all over the place. Mr. Studtacular, rivaling the benchmark of professional wrestling as one of the great nicknames in the sport, if I do say so myself. Brysin Scott joins us here on the program. Brysin, thank you so much for making time to be with us, sir. How are you?
What's up, guys? How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Well, we are thrilled that you are here. So first and foremost, I got to ask you about this 205 Live gig, because that's pretty amazing, first of all, just to be asked to be a part of 205 Live. So talk to the people about your experience there, taking on both TJ Perkins and Rich Swann on the same night. Let's start with how this whole thing came about, because I don't think most people, and I would probably include myself in this had I not met you and a couple of the other guys here, I don't think most people know how somebody like you, who's not a regular on WWE programming, gets on to a show like 205 Live. How did that whole thing come about?
Through the email process, send emails back and forth. Now WWE has the whole recruit app or page that you can fill out. And then if they're coming to your area or whatever else, they'll look you up. Before that, it was mainly off of email. They still had the recruit page, but I had received an email, so I just kept sending emails. I told them I'd travel anywhere. I wasn't worried about if it was in Texas or wherever. I told them I would travel just for the opportunity. But then they hit me up when they were doing the Great Balls of Fire. And so that was my actual first thing with them, was Great Balls of Fire. And then we were at Raw. And then that Tuesdays when I worked Rich Swann and TJ Perkins. And it was really crazy how it all happened. We're standing around the ring hoping to get ring time so we can get feedback from the agents and producers and stuff. And then Malenko walks out. He's like, "Oh, I'm not sure if anybody's coming out, but how much do you weigh?" And I said, 168 pounds. He goes, "You're working tonight," and walked off.
Nice.
Oh, shit. That's pretty sweet.
I'm like, what do I do with my hands? I'm like Ricky Bobby right now. What do I do with my hands? What am I supposed to do now? I'm working tonight. Who am I working? Who am I getting destroyed by? And then 5 minutes later, he comes back. "Oh, you'll be working Rich Swann and possibly TJ Perkins." So he walks away. He introduces me to Rich or whatever else. We do our thing. And then he finally comes back and goes, okay, yep, you're working TJ too. So I'm like, awesome. And
so
that was that.
That was so. Explain because I know Silky's been in this position because Silky had the match, the tryout at Monday Night Raw. Correct? Well, I mean, or was it SmackDown?
No, it wasn't televised though. It was just a tryout like before Raw.
Right. But you had
the first. I think it was the second night because the first night, when it's live, like they're very conscious about time. Right. And that's the one thing I did notice because when I went there, it was like when they were about to send them overseas, so they taped Raw and Raw. They did live Raw Monday, Tuesday they did a tape Raw, and then they taped SmackDown Wednesday and Thursday. And so Monday when it's live, they're just like, we didn't have time to get in the ring. We just pretty much sat there, talked to Regal, and like listened to him, which was great. And then the next night is when I actually wrestled. And like I say, it's very nerve-wracking because you're sitting there and it's like empty arena type style, or at least it was for me, where I'm just sitting there in my gear. And you see all these superstars that you see every day on TV, and you're just like, that's when you start getting like the nervousness.
Exactly. And that's one of the questions I was going to ask. And hello to you, Brooke, and thank you, Jeffrey Cross and Jody, for the Super Hearts over there on Periscope. Jody dropping Super Hearts first time. We would love that. Thank you very much. That's one of the things I was going to ask you, Bryson, not to interrupt you, Silky, but as you're waiting around to kind of find out whether or not you're even going to be on, what's the first thing that goes through your mind when Dean Malenko comes up to you and says, okay, that's it, you're working, you're on the show tonight? And hello to you, Brooke, over on YouTube. Yes, our guest here, Bryson, was on. It was Mario Johnson, was it not?
Connors.
Mario Connors.
I keep wanting to say Mario Williams because I'm in Houston, and being a Texans fan, I always want to say Mario Williams or Mario Chalmers. The fuck did I get Mario really? Chalmers?
The basketball player.
Yeah, I know, from Miami Heat getting carried the titles by LeBron and such. But anyway. So, Mario Connors, and you get tapped by Dean Malenko. So, at that point, is there anything that changes about your preparation for the night? I mean, what goes through your head at that point, and how do you spend the rest of the evening going up to the taping of the show?
Well, it was all... Well, no, it wasn't live. Well, no, it was, because it was after SmackDown, so it was live on 205 Live. But it was crazy. Like, that first loop that I went there, I rode with Kenneth Johnson from the Cruiserweight Classic, or Wheezy Woo, which he was under. Me and him rode together, and so he had been there before. He did the Cruiserweight Classic, so I was following his every footstep. You've been here, you know people here. I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes. I want to do the right thing every time. So I'm like, all right, what do I do now? He goes, find Rich, I guess. And I'm like, okay, how do I do that?
Like, where is he? Where do I go?
Yeah, and then finally, that's when Malenko brought Rich over and introduced him to me. And then from there, it was just like nervousness in my head the whole time. It was like, at that time, I was like 10 years in, and I'm just like, holy crap, 10 years I've been working for this, and it's finally about to happen. And not only one time, but 2 times. And it was just crazy. And it was cool because it was in San Antonio, and I had just moved to San Antonio. So as soon as I got done with that, I got to come home and celebrate that with my wife and kids. So that was awesome.
Yeah, and his wife, of course,
is a well-known wrestler. Simply Luscious.
Simply Luscious, for those of you who wrestled on TNA Wrestling for a while, wrestled all over the place. Yeah. Now, is she still doing matches as well, Bryson, or is she?
Yes. She is. We are actually. We've got 2 different bookings in March that will see her collide with NWA Women's Champion Jazz.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
and that's going to be down here in Texas.
That will be in Kyle, Texas, and San Antonio, I believe.
Fantastic.
We got 2 different dates right now, so.
Very cool. Very cool. So, as far as being out there in front of the crowd, I'm assuming that's as large or larger of a crowd as you've ever been in front of. What's the difference between doing an indie show where maybe you got a couple hundred folks there, 100 folks there, so on and so forth. And now all of a sudden, not only are you in front of thousands of people, but you're televised, you're live. I mean, what's going through your head in the ring there? Do you just kind of zone out and, you're so locked into what you're doing that you don't really, think about it until after the fact? Or was it one of those things where you were just soaking in every moment while you were there?
Well, the first thing was, I was like, well, this sucks because nobody knows my name. I don't even know my name for this. Charles Robinson actually didn't tell me my name until after he heard it in the earpiece. And he goes, "You're Mario Connors tonight." And I'm like, "Who's that?" He goes, "You." I go, "Okay."
So you literally found out when you got in the ring what your name was for the night.
Yeah.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
Good times, right? Wrestling.
Yep. Exactly. Wrestling.
Indie shows were bad with changing cards at the last minute.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I've never had something like that now. I did work a show where, like, my match literally changed 4 times, and all the way up until, like, literally we're about to go out, and they're like, okay, we're going to just do this match. And then, of course, they had to make it, like, a 4-way match. So now I've got a 4-way match with no prep time, no spots, no nothing. It's just go out there and do it.
And, yeah, that's always going to be crazy. Oh, we lost your video there for a second, Brysin, but
give me 1 second.
No problem. I'm sure we'll get you back here shortly. And while we're waiting, folks, thank you to Jeffrey Cross and Mac Diesel. Sorry, Mac Diesel for the Super Hearts there over on Periscope. We appreciate that. They gave him a name just like, that's what I'm saying, Brooke. Get out to the ring and figure out what your name is. That's always crazy.
Now, you've had a lot of, big things happen over the past, I guess, couple of years, more so that I've seen at least. Tell me about one thing I'm real interested in is the documentary, the Valhalla Club. Tell me how that came about because, friend of the show, Eddie Scott, was involved. And, when he explained the premise, I was like, that is pretty awesome. Yeah,
being a film guy myself, I was all over the idea of a wrestling documentary. So tell the folks about Valhalla Club, how they can check that out.
Well, to start, like the way it came about, I was a booker for Heart of Texas Wrestling in Waco, and the owner would tell me, "Oh, I got this guy. He wrestles Johnny Dynamite. He's worked for WWE and stuff like that. I need you to meet him. His name's Jan." I'm like, okay, guy's name's Jan and he wrestles as Johnny Dynamite. Kind of very generic, but okay. And then so we're at a show and he goes, "Hey, Brysin, here's Jan." And I turn around and I don't know if y'all seen pictures of Yawn.
Yeah, he is a big dude.
He's like 6'3", 6'4". So I'm not expecting to see this big guy. And I'm like, oh, well hello. And so we started talking. I find out he's a vet as well. And he was actually working at the VA in Waco. And I was actually just getting out of the military. And he helped me through the whole process of the VA and all that. And he goes, "I have this idea for a documentary. Let me run it by you and tell me what you think." And he goes, "I want to find maybe 1-2 more other people that are military veterans that have been diagnosed with PTSD, and let's talk to people about it through wrestling. Show them how we cope with our PTSD through wrestling." And that's when it clicked to me. That's how I cope with it. I didn't realize it till he said it. Mm-hmm. But I was like, that's how I get out of this mindset, y'all saw before we started, somebody shot a firework off. I was frozen, But when I'm Brysin Scott, I have no care. I haven't been to war, But the whole Valhalla Club thing, it was awesome. And then we met Eddie. I met Eddie at a TCW show in Killeen, and he's just, y'all see Eddie too.
Yeah.
He's
chiseled.
Yeah, he's chiseled.
And I find out he's a veteran, and I'm like, "Jan, talk to this guy." And we start talking, and the next thing I know, there's a film crew in my face and at my house interviewing me. And it was awesome because I got to put that message out there and let other veterans, and not just veterans, but anybody that suffers from PTSD, whether it be from domestic violence, car accident, just mental trauma, find an outlet. It doesn't have to be wrestling. You could go watch wrestling, and that could be your outlet. Draw, write music, listen to music, anything. Just don't keep it bottled up, because that's the worst thing that you can do.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you bring that up, because so many people talk about, there's so many different ways. I make a lot of references to the film industry because that's where I did some work, Silky being the wrestling guy on the show. But, it seems like in film, and I'm noticing it's the same thing in wrestling, nobody seems to have the same story as to how they got into it.
Yeah.
It's different for everybody. And so, to hear you talking about how that helps you with the PTSD and help people understand, what's it like? Because I know that you being in a position where, you're out there, you're doing something like pro wrestling where people might go, oh, it's people with PTSD, there's a stigma attached to so many things where people think folks with PTSD just lock themselves up in the house and, put headphones on so they don't hear any loud noises and they don't do anything there. But, talk about if you're comfortable talking about it, what it was like dealing with that in terms of finding out that you had it, number one. And, was there ever a point where you felt like, oh shit, this is really going to get in the way of my wrestling dream? Or did you get into wrestling after the fact? How did all that come about?
I actually originally started training wrestling my senior year of high school with my dad and one of the guys he wrestled with back in the day. That's why I originally got started wrestling. But, once I finally found out about my PTSD, I wasn't wrestling. Well, I had wrestled like 1 or 2 shows after I got back from Iraq. And then I was going through a divorce at the time too, so that didn't help anything. And so, it definitely came in the way because I used alcohol to deal with it. I drank. I didn't want to train. I didn't want to go to the gym. All I did was want to drink. I felt, I guess, pissed off that I went to war but came home to nothing anyway. So, and then between the 237 rockets in 10 months, it was too much to take it at that time, So I was depressed. Like I said, I was drinking. It wasn't the best thing, And then that's actually when I met Veronica. She worked at a bar, and after that, we started dating and stuff like that, and then things got serious quick. And then I kind of fell back in love with wrestling because of her, because we got engaged in the middle of a wrestling ring, before Brian Cage or Matthew Palmer or anybody else did it.
All them stealing your idea. What kind of shit is that?
I just saw it like a week ago. I think for some reason it popped up. Not too long ago, it popped up on my.
A couple weeks ago because it came across my thing.
And
it's crazy because in my office I still have the flyer from the show that I proposed to her at.
Now, was this a surprise thing, or had you guys talked about it beforehand, or you just hit her out of the blue?
She had no clue. She had no clue. I actually, it was actually kind of a spur of the moment thing. But that morning I got off because it was a Wednesday show. So yeah, it was like a Wednesday show. Tuesday. And so I was still in the Army at the time. I got out of the Army early. Picked them up, or before I got to the house to pick them up, I called her parents because her parents at the time lived in San Antonio. We lived in Killeen. So I called them and I'm like, hey, I know this is late notice, but first, can I ask your daughter's hand in marriage? So I actually did the traditional thing. I know it wasn't in person, but I asked her parents and they both gave their blessing. And then I was like, would you mind coming to Waco tonight so you could be there as I propose in the ring? And they're like, we're packing up now. So it was definitely a spur of the moment thing. She had no clue. She had a dress on, so I got chopped for it. and she was pregnant at the time. So.
Oh wow.
So, but it was awesome.
And things have all worked out since then. You were just telling us ahead of time. You got 2 kiddos together now with the 5-year-old and the 3-year-old. Is that right?
Yeah, 5 years old, 3 years old.
Man.
Yeah, they're great when they're that age. They get older and then it gets worse.
I don't know. My kids hang out in too many wrestling locker rooms. They're pretty good with back chops right now. That's their thing. Just going around and back chopping people.
Yeah, my daughter was good with the knee drop. which was, I guess she was trying to do a splash. I don't know, but I'd be laying down and she'd just jump up, Alexa Bliss styles, both knees in my chest, but she wasn't working it, so very stiff, and I couldn't breathe.
Yeah,
it was not fun for me.
I got the 2 knees in the back. You know, my son used to jump up 2 knees in the back, but, you know, my son's always been on the small side, so it was not that big a deal. But
oh, no, it's a very big deal.
My son now, he got these rain boots for Christmas, and he's been... Like I said, my son doesn't care about my heat with JDF. He's been watching Power Rangers, like, mocking me with it. So he's been practicing these kicks, and he nailed me in the shin earlier today.
Ooh, that's the worst.
Literally took me to my knee. I was like, okay, that's probably one of the stiffer kicks to the leg I've taken from a 3-year-old with rain boots.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way that it'll go. So, well, listen, folks, 832-937-4559 if you want to jump in on the phone lines here. Let's talk about JDF here. The Green Power Ranger, for those of you that don't know,
or white, depends.
We've already had some back and forth with a couple of the fans of the show, namely Brooke over here on YouTube, who is let's just say she might be a bit concerned for your well-being because this Jason David Frank, who plays the Green Power Ranger, is set to have a match against Brysin Scott, our guest here tonight, and Brooke here seems to think that JDF is a total badass. So first of all, for the folks who don't follow the Power Rangers, talk a little bit about Jason David Frank, who he is, and how this whole wrestling thing came about with him.
He's some fake superhero. I mean, that's all I know.
He's a fake superhero.
Nice.
All right, well, the trash talking has begun already. So
I mean, all I know is I saw the guy after Monday Night Raw in Houston. We took a picture together because we had like matching jackets on. We were both rocking like white and black jackets. And we exchanged phone numbers so we could send the picture to each other. And then the next thing I know, he shows up. He's at one of my bookings. So I'm like, am I that much of a star? JDF's following me? I mean, I guess so, right?
Yeah.
Clearly you are, because
he's following me everywhere. He's worried about me.
Yeah, I've never seen JDF on 205 Live. So
exactly.
You know,
exactly.
I mean, who did he ever really beat?
There you go. So you see him at one of the bookings, and then at that point, does the trash talk start between you two, or does he show up?
Well, as soon as I found out he was coming, I was pissed off, because I mean, stealing my shine. I'm Mr. Studtacular. Laredo's my house.
Yeah.
I'm taking over Laredo. I don't care if Gaga's their champion, whoever their champion is. I'm Mr. Studtacular. I take over wherever I want to go. Laredo's where I want to take over right now. Maybe just to piss off Trump and I might buy all of Laredo so we can't put a wall there.
Nice.
I might do that just to be like that. But I mean, he shows up. I make all these huge announcements. LWA never made any announcements like that for me. And so I took offense to it, I let him know. And just like me, when I was a kid, I was a huge Power Rangers fan. But then I just realized, after looking on Netflix, how many times can you reboot something so crappy?
I mean,
I'm
not going to lie.
People going to believe JDF is a real superhero?
Well, apparently, we got a comment here from Brooke on YouTube who says, fake superhero. I would have kept that to myself, dude. He's not fake when he's a black belt. So
I called him fake in Laredo. I called him fake while he was standing right in front of his face.
And didn't have anything to say back to you. Didn't put the black belt skills to work then, did he?
I don't know about that. I saw the pictures.
Hey.
It was a cheap shot, I'm sure. I
punched 2 of his security guards. I wasn't looking at him.
See, it was a cheap shot, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, it was a cheap shot.
I was ready to go after him, but he's got 2 big behemoth security guards, that I've got to get through to get to him. Do I have security guards? No. I'm 5'6", 185 pounds. What do I need security guards for? But he's some black belt karate, but he's got security guards. How's that for a superhero, Brooke?
Well, okay then. So is he actually doing now? I would assume he's doing some, at least, professional wrestling training. I mean, he's not just going to step into your arena and think that he's going to come in and work you over. Are you familiar with what he's doing to prepare himself for the match, or do you even concern yourself with that? You just figure you got to get yourself ready.
I just know he's in Houston. Hopefully he hits up Bob Murphy or Booker T. Somebody help him out, because somebody's gonna have to help him.
You don't think the black belt will translate well into the pro wrestling world?
Black belt or not, I'm still gonna stretch him.
Okay, then. Because, we have seen a lot of people, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. We've seen a lot of people, especially here recently, making the transition from other combat sports to professional wrestling, most notably on the male side, Brock Lesnar, quite a while back, and here recently, Ronda Rousey.
Brock Lesnar more was a wrestler that
then
transitioned to a UFC
This is
guy.
true. This is true. And then coming back again. But most recently, Ronda Rousey and the 4 horsewomen of MMA there. What's your thoughts on Ronda and what she's done so far in the WWE? Do you think we'll start to see more of this with people that are leaving the MMA world, perhaps making the transition over? I mean, it happened a long time ago, even with guys like Dan Severn and Ken Shamrock, guys like that. But it seems like we're seeing it a bit more often. Do you think that trend continues going forward?
I mean, I can't really comment too much on the current product. I really don't keep up much with it because I'm so invested in myself and what me and Luscious are doing. But what I do catch, I mean, it's great because we're bringing in more talent. We're bringing in more diversity, Yeah. They bring in, like you say, the karate, the Muay Thai, all that. They bring all that in so it gives other people something to learn to work with, adapt to different styles. It makes matches more interesting, matchups more interesting, who you put together to see how they coexist or what kind of product they put out. I think that's great for wrestling fans. Definitely it's great for wrestling fans, and it's great for the wrestlers itself too, because I mean we get to diversify ourselves.
Well, welcome to you, Brandon Apter, over on Periscope. Thank you for joining us.
And we also have William Rowan on YouTube, said he served with you.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. William
Billy Rowan.
Yeah. So Billy dropping by, and Brooke wants to know, have you wrestled Matt Sydal?
I have not wrestled Matt Sydal. I did try him and do his seminar one time, and we killed a big breakfast at Waffle House.
Nice.
So no wrestling, but you killed a big breakfast at Waffle House. That's okay.
Yeah. Oh, but I mean, like his seminar was phenomenal. Lou Gotti from VIP hooked that up for me. That was definitely one of the more interesting seminars that I got to do. So that was good.
Oh, that's pretty good. Now, back to the Jason David Frank, because I know people are wanting to know. Now, what do you think do you think he's actually in a prepared contest when you're prepared and not sucker punched? Which I saw the picture. It very much looked like he got sucker punched. But do you think are you prepared for like his grappling? Because he does do MMA, and from what I've seen, he actually is pretty good at it. So are you at least worried about that part? Because I mean, you're making bold predictions about stretching him, but he might be, I guess, very inept at that. So what's your thoughts on it?
Well, the bad thing about Jason, like, yeah, I mean, he's got the kicks and everything else, but right now, I know he's healing from a hamstring injury. He's put it on Facebook, he's put it on Instagram. So that's one of those things I have in the back of my mind. I will go for your weak point no matter what. That's one of the problems with social media and people that think they're some big star. They got to let everybody know what's wrong with them. So, I mean, he could train to wrestle. He could train his MMA. Eddie Scott.
Yes.
He does no gi competitions. He does gi competitions.
Oh, I watched the video.
Who do you think I'm going to be training with up until I step in the ring with JDF?
Yeah,
I'm going to have counters for his stuff. I'm no dummy.
I watched Eddie, like, he posted, I think, last year when he competed, and, like, every match was, like, 5 fucking seconds of him just dominated.
Rolling everybody.
All those leg locks.
Yeah. I mean, I wrestled him, and, like, it was, like, the most painful, like, couple minutes before someone broke it up. that like literally everything I did, he was quick. I was not prepared for that. Like I was just like, what the hell?
I'm glad he's always on my side.
Yeah, I am too. After some of the stories that he's told us, man, like that was the one thing I loved about Eddie is like he's always got this he always says he's like a gentle like person, but I'm pretty sure like he's not. Like
that dude don't know what gentle is.
Yeah, he does not. He hit me, I think, with a forearm, and I might have lost feeling on like left side of my face, might have had temporary paralysis for a second.
I see him grab a beer bottle and I see it starting to foam up. I'm like, Jesus, lighten up.
Yeah, that guy's totally insane, and definitely a good guy to have in your corner.
Yeah, definitely.
When you're taking on a guy like JD Frank. So, first off, shout out to Dr. Huge. Thank you for the super heart, sir. We appreciate that. And we got folks asking, when is the match? Where can we watch? Can we check it out? So, have we set an official date yet, or is this just one of those things where, you know, you're kind of like whatever, whenever he's ready, I'm ready, or do we have an official date set up?
I've signed the contract. I know he signed the contract. I don't know a date. I'm waiting on LWA and JDF's agent. You know, I mean, sorry, I'm no big time superstar. I don't have an agent. I do all my booking stuff myself. So, you just tell me when to be there, and I'll be there. You know, so LWA, JDF, hurry up and train. I mean, we already know the outcome. Gonna be another fake superhero laying on the ground.
So no concern on your part whatsoever of his MMA background. You're gonna be prepared for that. Anything else you feel like he can bring to the table that may surprise you that you're not gonna be ready for?
If he can actually stand up and wrestle with me, if he can go hold for hold with me, JDF will surprise me. And honestly, I think he'll surprise a lot of people.
But I get from the way that you're asking that question that you don't anticipate that being the case.
No, not at all. I see him coming in, trying to throw kicks, and just trying to strike. I've seen him go for arm bars, and I watched a couple of his MMA things. The one I saw, he got a guy with a pretty good arm bar. But I'm not sloppy like that guy. I'm not lazy like that guy. I'm going to prepare for this, you know. I know. I'm going to watch tapes. You know, like I said, my kids watch Power Rangers right now. I'm going to go study more. You know, that's all I got to know.
Fantastic. So tell us a little bit about your time down there. This is in Laredo. So I think folks outside of Texas don't necessarily have an appreciation for just how much wrestling goes on here in Texas. I mean, everybody...
It's crazy.
Yeah, folks know about Booker T's school because he's a name, you know, WWE and things like that. But, you know, just here in the Houston area, we've got to have 4 or 5 promotions that are, you know, just in the greater Houston area. How busy...
And I've never wrestled in Houston besides Cypress.
That's insane.
Cypress? Yeah. The TSW?
Yep.
Yeah. So, well, we'll have to change that at some point. But how busy does somebody like you stay in the indie wrestling circuit? I know that's a question a lot of people have. It seems like there are certain guys that we see all the time, you know, the bigger name indie guys, you know, your guys like your Brian Cages before he signed. And, you know, you're seeing these guys bounce all across the country. Sammy Guevara has been on our show before, you know, and he's down in Mexico, and then he's out at PWG. He's all over the place.
He's in Japan right now. He said he just posted on Instagram. He wrestled like a 76-year-old guy.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
I don't even know how I kept up with Sammy because Sammy's like way too quick.
Yeah, he's all over the place. So how busy is this job for you? How often do you wrestle? How often do you take bookings? And you know, how I guess a lot of people want to know, because we see guys on the indie scene making a living as pro wrestlers, and I know a lot of times guys have jobs on the side and so forth, but is it something where you find yourself being busy enough that this can be something that's a nice little gig for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm having a great time with it, between it being just me wrestling or it being just Veronica wrestling, or we're both wrestling on shows. You know, either way, most of the time she's with me. A couple times she won't be. Like, I know next Friday I'll be in Sherman. She won't be with me because this was like a last minute thing. But we're always on the road together. We stay pretty busy. January's starting off a little slow, but I've already had at least, I think I've got like 32 dates booked already for this year.
Nice.
So you're staying crazy busy, getting the year booked early. Well, that's definitely.
I'm trying, but hold on. Okay.
Technical difficulties. See, they're blowing up your phone already, man. That's what it is. That's people wanting to know, when's this match? When do I get to see you kick the shit out of JDF? Is what they're doing.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me.
So you're staying busy and getting a lot of bookings now. So let me ask you this: we talk about the number of promotions here in Texas. The number of nationwide promotions is starting to grow as well. Obviously, we've had Ring of Honor, we've had Impact, and the big announcement we talked about a little bit earlier in the show with All Elite Wrestling.
But you can't count out MLW either. MLW out of Florida is starting to
MLW
come back with a fire under them. So honestly, that's one of the big ones that I've been looking at is MLW. I've got a lot of friends down there. It's all about preparing my mind and body before I jump into something like that, Like, yeah, I've requested WWE extra work and stuff like that. And before I go into that, because they email you a couple weeks out and let you know, so you can have time to prepare yourself, stuff like that. I want to, for like MLW or something like that, I want to go fully prepared so that when I go there, I impress to where I'm on the roster right after. Just because that's my mentality right now. I've got to do that. I'm 30 years old. I'll be 31 this year. I've got 2 kids. If I'm going to do something with myself, I got to do it soon.
So with the inclusion of All Elite Wrestling in that roster of, nationwide promotions with all the ones that we just talked about, it seems like we're starting to see a bit of a signing war, if you will. There are guys bouncing around from promotion to promotion, guys leaving WWE, guys getting scooped up by WWE. And you mentioned, of course, MLW. Of course, we've seen people. Shane Taylor was on our show recently. Mm-hmm. He's just signed a full deal with Impact. Guys are signing extensions with Ring of Honor. It's crazy. It's all over the place. Folks are saying this is a fantastic time to be a pro wrestling fan. What's it like as a pro wrestler? Do you feel like with the more of these promotions that come around, the more opportunity somebody like you is going to have to get picked up by one of them and potentially, get onto one of those bigger rosters?
It makes me more hungry. I know that much. It motivates me. I don't necessarily know if I'll get signed, but it motivates me. It definitely lights a fire into my ass to get myself together and prove to not only Texas but the world that I am as good as I say I am.
Now, as far as the extra work goes, you mentioned WWE. We've got Elimination Chamber coming to Houston, I believe next month. Is it February?
February, sometime.
Yeah,
it is
February 17th, right?
I believe so. Something like that.
Then 18th they're in Lafayette, and 19th they're in New Orleans.
Now, do you travel outside of Texas to do wrestling as well? How often?
Yes.
How often do you make it over
I've
to?
I've traveled to Louisiana. I've traveled to Florida. I've traveled to Virginia. I also started wrestling on the East Coast in Virginia and wrestled in Virginia and North Carolina a good bit.
So one of the questions I know I had when I came into to working with Silky and the guys over at DZW down here in Katy was when you go on these type of bookings, whether it be to Louisiana, if somewhere further away like Florida, especially somewhere like Virginia, are these promotions paying for your travel? Is this something where you travel just for the exposure? How does that work with the lower level independents like that?
Well, a lot of times with the I've been to Virginia twice since I've lived here in Texas. One time I flew in for family thing and ended up getting on the promotion that I debuted with. And then another time I rode in with guys from Booker T School because they do a talent transfer up in Virginia.
VCW?
Yeah, VCW. Yeah, that's where I started at. So I rode up with guys from Booker School to that. So we split the travel, and there I stayed with my mom. The shows in Norfolk, I stayed right there in Virginia Beach. And then Florida, I went there a couple times. One time I was flown out there. The promoter had like this awesome little studio in his backyard. So I just crashed there. I was like, dude, I don't need a hotel. Just give me that little studio. I had Netflix, so I binge watched Glow.
Sweet. Well, that'll work.
Nice.
that's a good thing to pass the time for sure. Now, one of the things that AEW brought up was, or I can't remember them bringing this up. I didn't get a chance to watch the entire little rally that they did there. But one of the things that's been talked about is them having insurance for their wrestlers, because this is the type of industry where people do get hurt quite often. Let's talk first about you and your experience. Any type of big injuries in wrestling where you felt like, this is not good, this is something that's gonna linger for a while, or have you managed to stay relatively injury free over your career?
2012, I tore my labrum in my shoulder, which was pretty bad because I did it. There's regular bump off of like a calf kick, and I took the bump and I hit the mat, and as soon as I did, I felt it. I was just like, oh, there it goes. And then I finished. Calf kick is towards the beginning of the match, and so finished the match and everything else, and then I had to run in in the main. Had to do that. Drove home with my wrestling gear still on, like sweatpants over top of me. I get home and I'm telling Veronica, we're not going to the hospital. We're not going to the hospital. I'm in the Army at the time, and it is a weeknight show. I'm like, man, if I go to the hospital, they're going to know I was wrestling. And I'm sitting on my couch and I sneeze, and it feels like my shoulder just fell out. So I'm like, okay, yep, we're going to the hospital.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, that's never fun.
And then not too long ago, I was wrestling a show here in San Antonio. It was outside, and oh, my allergy is kicking my ass.
No problem.
But I come off the top rope for a coup de grace as Rodney Mack had somebody in a wheelbarrow. And I hit the coup de grace, and as my legs, again, land on the ring, I just feel a jolt in my leg. And I could hobble around on it. The next morning, I couldn't walk on it for 2 days. And then it's actually right before we did the Valhalla Club stuff with Comedy Central at the beginning of December. Mm-hmm. And then I had WWE that Monday and Tuesday. So we taped Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday for Comedy Central. And then Monday and Tuesday, I did WWE extra work. And while we're taping, I'm taping my leg because it's still injured, but I've got to do these tapings because it's for Comedy Central. And then I take off the tape, and my whole hamstring, like this, is just black and blue. And I'm like, ugh. But I made it to both the shows for that, and then I went to do the extra work, made it to that, and now everything's fine now. Back to hitting leg day.
So that was one. Anymore. Yeah, that was one of the questions I was going to ask. So on these types of shows, because again, coming back to the whole thing of insuring wrestlers, I would assume because of your military background, you're probably covered in that regard. But do you feel like that's something that's missing in the wrestling business, given that this is such a high risk injury? And you said it with the examples that you just gave right there, and Silky's mentioned it here on the program. A lot of times it's not even something crazy like, doing a springboard 450 on somebody and you over rotate and smash your head or something. It's something small. It's just wear and tear. Is that something that you would like to see catch on? And can it catch on? Can that be something where promotions throughout the country can insure their wrestlers so that they don't have to worry about things like medical bills that come up from injuries?
WWE has to pay insurance for buildings and stuff like that. Why can't they do it for the wrestlers? Those are the guys bringing you the money in to pay for that insurance. Yeah. So why not give back to them a little bit more? It's great. I understand they're independent contractors or whatever else, but at the same time, show them that you care. I know WWE pays their people nicely, but at the same time,
and they'll take that. Oh, my bad.
That still shows them you care even more. And then with that, if they had that health insurance, they might be paying a little bit or whatever, but at least they can afford health care for their family as well.
Yeah, to me, it's kind of all bullshit about their independent contractors, because to me, if I sign a contract with you and you say where I can and can't wrestle, I'm not independent. I'm your fucking employee.
There's nothing independent about that.
I'm your fucking employee. And as an employee working God knows how many dates you're on the road, like 300 something days a year. That's more than enough for full-time employment. So they should get insurance. But, you know, only the top guys really get it. You think John Cena pays for anything if he fucking blows, like tears a pec or something like that? No, because he's their cash cow. They'll make sure he's covered. But guys lower on the card, they got to fend for themselves.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
I mean, I don't know how much I buy this insurance because, again, it's going to just working in that field. It costs a lot of money for a business to pay for insurance for their employees. And you're talking about WWE, who has hundreds upon hundreds wrestlers that you may or may not see on TV.
Right.
You know, but they still have over like 100 wrestlers on their roster that they would have to pay insurance for every one of them.
Yeah.
And
that's true.
I just don't see it happening. Like, I think these are all buzzworthy promises, honestly. Like, they also mentioned, like, pay equality for the female workers.
Yes.
Which, I mean, in the indie game, female workers kind of get more than male.
Yeah, I was going to say, they get paid more than...
Yeah, because there's so little right of them.
Girls that have been in the business maybe a year, you know, with, I mean, yeah, they might be decent talent, but they're making as much money as I am. And I'm just like, well, damn.
Yeah, we've noticed that. We've noticed that down here, definitely.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
And that's no knock to them. Yeah, you know, no knock at all, because, I mean, this is physically demanding, you know?
It's marketing 101. I mean, supply and demand. The supply on women who can work, and honestly, it's wrestling's crowds are male, so they're eye-driven, so finding a girl that can work and is somewhat attractive or attractive to put on your flyer, they're going to cost you a lot of money just because just in general, there's so few women here in this area, in the Houston area, that I can think of right now. Everyone that on the Houston shows that have women normally are bringing them down from like Austin or from San Antonio. I mean,
yeah, well, and there's a high demand for them, like you said. I mean, that's definitely, there's no question about that. At least down here.
Women's wrestling's on a rise.
Yeah, no question about that for sure. Well, we got a couple of folks. First of all, Lit Mantis, thank you for the super hearts, and Lit Mantis and Brooke both thanking you for your service. Brooke's dad was in the military, so she sends a thank you and a thank you from Lit Mantis as well. Who says, I would assume it's a group healthcare plan with a lower premium per person. And
that's what I was thinking. It's something like that.
Yeah,
group plan.
And that's and we'll close on this. Do you think something like that has to start at the top? Because that's, you know, they talk about this like in professional sports, for instance, the NFL being a copycat league, and really a lot of these smaller promotions are copycat promotions in the sense that, you know, they're trying to do essentially what WWE is doing, maybe not nowadays, but in the overall grand scheme of things. Does something like that need to start at WWE, or can somebody like AEW get the ball rolling and maybe pressure WWE to have to do it at their end?
I think it very well should start at AEW, just so they could show, you know, the wrestlers, you know, that they're not just blowing smoke. You know, 'cause, I mean, they've made all these promises, but if one of the biggest promises you keep is healthcare for the boys, they're already going to put that much more effort towards putting out a good product for you, because you've already shown your promises are worthy. You're worthy of keeping your promises. So if the guys are out there putting on good matches because they see you're trustworthy enough, then the fans are going to be happy. That's just going to bring in more revenue. It's just like, it's a waterfall effect, man. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to in-depth business-wise thinking of it, but I think that's a smart move for AEW coming out the gate.
Definitely. Well, before we get out of here, Bryson, any last words in case he sees this, because he probably will, for JDF, Jason David Frank, the Green Power Ranger, who you will be having the match with at Laredo Wrestling down here in Texas before too much longer. Any parting shots for JDF should he happen to see the program here tonight?
He better blow that little dagger for some magic powers, because he's going to need it.
All right, then.
And also, go ahead and let us know some of your upcoming dates, just because we have fans from all over. So just in case someone's near and can come see you.
Of course, you're going to ask me that with my booking calendars downstairs. I know this. Tomorrow night, I'll be in San Antonio at Wolverine Gym for TWA. next Friday, I will be in Sherman, Texas for Texoma Pro. And the 26th, I will be in Laredo for LWA again. I think I have one more date. I can't really remember.
That's all right. Well, we put your information up there at Mr. Studtacular BS on Twitter and at Mr._Studtacular on Instagram if you want to catch up with Brysin and keep up with his dates. And if you are in the area, we would definitely suggest that you make some time to come and check him out. And his lovely wife, Simply Luscious, who is awesome, but is also with him on several of his dates.
For my money, probably one of the best female workers there is.
No doubt about that. No doubt about that. Well, Brysin, we appreciate it so much, man. Thank you for making the time to come and chat with us. We wish you the best of luck in your upcoming bookings this year and against JDF, and hopefully you will come back and join us on the show as that match draws closer and get the hype train going a little bit more so we can have a nice big crowd out for you and JDF.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. Suggy Baines, anything else for the people before we say goodnight this evening?
No, just my normal. This Saturday, I'll be at the Katie Elks Lodge for DZW.
Domination Zone Wrestling. That's at DZ Wrestling on Twitter. DZWrestling.com is the website, or DZW Inc. on Facebook. So, we thank you so much for being with us tonight for the Benchmark, Suggy Baines.
Yo, yo.
And our special guest, Mr. Studtacular, Brysin Scott. Chris Speez here with you. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll see you Monday night, 10 p.m. Central, following Monday Night Raw, right here on the Speez and the Benchmark Show. Good night, everybody.